Hi everyone, I'm Jace.
And I'm Fanny. Welcome to Freelance Exchange. We speak to a freelancer about freelancing and the gig economy.
So we have today with us two very special guests that I personally know for a while, and really happy that they are here with us today. So first we have Anne-Laure, who is
everyone.
She is a community artist and art facilitator. I will leave it to her to share with you more. And then of course we have Satya here with us today as well. Hi.
Hi, so good to be here.
Very happy.
Right. Hi ladies, maybe you'd like to introduce yourself to our audience.
Yeah, would you like to start?
Okay, I can start.
Yeah.
Hi, I'm Satya. I'm the founder of ZAG Studios, and I help service-based businesses create brands that stand out and create messages that will help them get their best clients really quickly. And I've been doing this for about 2.5 years now, and it's been a really interesting journey, so I'm excited to share about it.
Great.
Yeah.
Fantastic. Hi, everyone. So I'm Anne-Laure. I'm an artist, facilitator, and community builder. So basically, I help individual or university or organization get excited behind a big vision and really collectively build together the relation to this big vision. So align behind the big vision. And I do that through collective art experiences.
So maybe you would like to share with us a bit more about your involvement with the community. Maybe we'll start with Anne-Laure. Currently, what based on what you're doing, what are some of the involvement that you have with the local art community and the media community?
That's a very good question because actually I'm still testing the different format I'm involved in. Maybe just a few words to explain why people reach out to me. I've got a very diverse background. So I'm an engineer background. I've been working in Africa and South.
You doesn't look like an engineer at all.
Well, actually, that's very good when you talk about innovation or where people are thinking about, something like a company that deal with technology. They say, okay, this one I can trust because there's this type of background. Then I've been in consulting. So people also think I can facilitate from engineering moving to consulting. And when I arrived in Singapore, I was more in charge of impact and tech-related community. I'm the first community and program manager of Impact Hub. So based on that, really people approach me on many things. I give you one example about how I've been involved with local artists. For example, it was a music festival, music, inspiration and technology festival called IMI. They thought, okay, we're technology, art, we need someone who understands content. You seem to understand all of it. Can you curate for us some speaker and local artists? I've never done that before, but I thought, that sounds cool. So I'm going to do it. So my roles were really to approach university, NYP, local artists to see what they were doing and how we could create an entire exhibition with them. So that's one way. Then different approaches. Actually, another person who knew me through Impact Hub. That was needed. It's a university, a medical university, and they need someone to really help them, after students and the admin staff really get the vision of the university and help them be more creative and become leaders. Yeah. They didn't really know how to go about it. They say, okay, can you come and do something inspiring for us? Yeah. I say, sure, of course I can. And then actually the person came back 2 weeks after and said, but you are a consultant before. I said, yes. Can you involve us? I said, of course. So, and then we started with 15 people and we ended up with 157 people from the student to the staff, the dean, passing by people. It was amazing. So it's really listening to what people want and saying yes, and then how do we do it and bringing the right people. So that's more for me. Yeah.
Wow.
Nice.
Yeah, I really love my clients. I'm really excited about it. No, it's true. Every time I'm if I could choose, I would have chosen to work with you. And so maybe she said that. I'm really excited by what's happening at the moment in Singapore and how people understand creativity is important and collaboration is important, and we need to be equipped with that. Right. And then we can run further.
Yeah, that's the 21st century skill sets that we're talking about.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Science meets art.
Yeah.
You said something very important. 5 or 6 years ago, people were like, you're an engineer, an artist, what are you? But now it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Like Google, for example, I don't know if I can say the brand, but a big tech company created this virtual reality tool that you can paint in 3 dimensions a sparkling cloud of stars, multicolor. And it a lot of engineers coded that so that other people can be even more creative. And so there is no difference between technology, creativity. For me, both is very strong.
Right. Yeah, that's true.
So I really
true.
like that's where we are today. I really agree with you.
Yeah. I think that's where our Ministry of Education is striving towards too, but it's just getting the formula, trying to break through. I would say the mindset, right, of a lot of people, right. But I think what you're doing is
This
really,
is what I do. Yeah.
That's what you do, right? It's your business, right? So maybe you'd like to share with us more, or because I noticed that your company take a very niche approach, right? You target the startups, which you are very good at it. So is there a particular reason, how this, how do you find your niche, or I would say, so maybe that's something that our freelancers can actually learn from you.
Yeah, absolutely. Actually, there was something I wanted to add on to what you were saying. Right. So I'll just address that for a quick second and then get into the niche thing. But I just had this thought very recently, which is that at the top of any industry, it's all art, because there is no science to handling problems with people at work. There's no science to learning how to grow a business, like how to solve the problems that come when you grow a business. And I was having this discussion with someone lately, and I was like, at the top of any industry, it's all art. It doesn't matter whether you're a musician, it doesn't matter whether you are a tennis player, it doesn't matter whether you are at the top of a business, it doesn't matter whether you're top of a political system. At the top of any industry, it's all art, right? So the fact is that if we empower ourselves to be thinking out of the box and get the skills that we need to be creative with solving problems, we'll learn that whatever it is that we want to accomplish, it's more of an art form than science. So that's something really interesting to think about, which is you're basically helping create the kind of leaders who can solve problems that are not written down in a textbook, right? So that's So I'm really excited for you, and I'm really excited to see what comes up from that.
Maybe I bring her to my coffee business development meeting.
Yes,
Just so that the audience know, I know this person. I've actually hired her because I think you're amazing about how you manage to target the perfect content and convey the message, because I'm really creative. Sometimes I don't know how to say things, and I can see, I know why I hired you last time. Yes. Thank you for sharing.
Absolutely. About the niche. So I take a very niche specific approach, and I work with a lot of people who are trying to figure out their niches as well, both in my consulting work, which is what I do. I would say, 50% of the time I do my consulting work, but I've recently started coaching freelancers as well who want to take their business to the next level. So the reason why I've always been very specific about working with a certain type of clients. And for example, earlier when I was getting started, I worked with a lot of tech startups in Singapore just because they were in my immediate network. I was at the hub for such a long time, and I just knew so many tech startups that it made sense to start off my consulting business working with them. But then I realized that as I was working with all these amazing clients, it started being very draining for me, because all of them wanted really different things from me, right? Some people wanted to do Facebook ads, other people wanted to do website copy, other people wanted to do full-blown marketing plans. Some clients I would work with for 9 months, other clients I would work with for 1 month. So what I just realized was that there were all these different projects which had their own. It was each project was its own universe, and it required its own little things. But it started really being draining for me, because there's only so much time that I have, right? There's only so much time that I have to spend with clients. So becoming really specific about my niche really helped me create processes around my work that can scale. Because ultimately, I feel like I don't want to be in a one-man army or one-woman army forever. I want to expand, and I want to be able to scale my business. And picking a niche is just really important for that. And as I help my clients do that, I can see that they grow their businesses faster, they can charge more, because they really become experts in that industry. And all of that is a good thing to grow a sustainable business.
Yeah, that's right.
Can I comment on what
you
of
said?
Course, so I think it's very important. I really understand the aspect of sometimes you're a freelancer, sometimes you're a consultant, and it has different impact on how you work. And I just want to substantiate on that. Being a freelancer, your question is very good, because finding the really particular one or two product that client can identify you, and your time is money, and you just do this. That's the definition of a freelancer. What I've noticed, and I remember I had a client starting in Singapore, and then she went to Paris, so she brought me to France with her, and it was more she hired me for something, and eventually she had other issues that I could fix because I know how to do many things. So we just shifted the time for something else. It became more a consulting mission, very draining, amazing.
Right.
But really was more hiring me for multiple things. And this is not really freelancing. So if people really wants to specialize in something, go really deep, that's freelancing. If they want to be like a kind of one-stop shop and then like super facilitator, which I think I also like.
Yeah.
So it's really, it's a different approach.
Yeah.
And I will say do you consider, actually I have a question for you. Do you consider that if you scale your business, you hire people, you're still a freelancer?
I actually don't consider myself a freelancer even right now. Like I have not called myself a freelancer forever. just because I feel like the term itself, the word freelancing just kind of means it gets devalued a lot. I would just say that. It gets
What makes you say that? And I ask you the question as well, actually. Because I would love to hear about that. Because I don't call myself a freelancer either. But I still, I'm interested.
Yeah, the problem is that with the word freelancer, what has just happened, and it's really unfortunate, is that all over the world there are marketplaces, right? There are marketplaces like Upwork, where you are able to hire talent for really cheap. And when you say freelancer, a lot of people associate with the $3 an hour talent that they can find on Upwork. And that is a sandbox I did not play in since day one. I was like, from day one, I was like, that is not the sandbox I want to play in. And I tell all my clients and all my coaching clients and my consulting clients that do not call yourself a freelancer or do not call yourself like any phrase that can potentially devalue your work. I always say I have my own business. I never say I freelance. And to be honest, I don't think it is accurate either, because I do hire people on contract basis and I do collaborate with other people. So I'm not a freelancer anyway in the very specific definition that word has. But I would say that it's better. It's so much better to stay away from that word. I think people will just make a lot more money if they didn't call themselves a freelancer.
So you think it's a mindset thing that actually constrain them in that sense when they see themselves as a freelancers versus if they see it as a or as a business in that sense, and how do they grow it? So it's a mindset thing, you think?
Absolutely. And I think it's a mindset thing on both sides, like not just for them as a service provider, but for their clients and how the clients perceive you, right? Like I want to be perceived as an expert. Like I don't want to be perceived as a pair of hands. Like I'm not here to get the job done. And a lot of the times I disagree with my clients. I'm like, no, I don't agree with you. And that's just because I would rather, they're hiring me to be the expert. They're hiring me to solve a problem. They're not hiring me to stroke their ego. And I'm not here to do that anyway, right? And unfortunately, a lot of freelancers, like low-cost freelancers, they're like, yeah, I'm just here to get the job done. I'm just a pair of hands. And when you're a pair of hands, you just can't charge enough. And also, you are not doing the right thing by your client, to be very honest. Like, if you are really an expert in your niche, it's your job to educate your client. So, yeah.
Yes, I do agree with that.
Yeah, absolutely. So,
no, I mean, it sounds more humble, but really.
Yeah, I mean, I think all of us can stand to really own whatever it is that we are experts in. So, yeah.
And it goes both ways. The client are teaching me also a lot of things sometimes. So maybe one thing that I could add is the relation to time. People, I've been working with people on a regular basis for multiple things. Like one event organizer, I think it's the fourth year I work with them. It started very small and then we build up. And sometime, so again, it's a question for you. I don't know, but for me, freelancer, I need a graphic designer once and then it's done. So I don't know if the sound of the word is a bit like short term, very sharp, but is it a long term relation? I don't know. What's your...
Well, I think, I mean, it really depends on the client's objective, right? We do have some clients who is actually not just looking for a short stint. Of course, they have immediate needs, right? So whether is it a logo, whether is it a brochures, but a lot of the clients that we work with, they also want to build a long-term, I would say, pipeline of talents that they can tap on whenever, they need it, right? So one of the, not one, but maybe the top 3 value propositions that our clients see us, right, is in terms of course, quality, right, and that's what we have always been advocating. We want to work with self-employed persons, right, or creative individuals, or independent creative professionals.
I love that.
So a lot of them, so we are looking for people who are really passionate about their craft, right, and who really stand for something. right? In whether you are graphic designers, whether you are web designers, right? Strive for excellence is key. So we always are looking out for this group of freelancers, right? Because that's what keep the clients, right? That's what will make it, a difference between a one-off project versus a long-term projects. So quality is one, and then another one is timeliness. So a lot of our clients, right? I mean, of course, unfortunately, but some of them really, they kind of look for us is because they have no choice, right? Because it's like the thing is so urgent, they don't know anybody else, that can do it. So they say, I'm so sorry, I need it done by tonight. I need it done by tomorrow because, my previous freelancers, didn't do a good job, I'm answerable to my boss, and things like that. So timeliness is something that's very important. So if we are actually able to provide this turnaround, right, for our client, not just with one freelancers, because right now a lot of them, maybe they already know, right? They already are working with somebody, just maybe one graphic designers. But if they need it, the graphic designers may not be available, right? So hence, they would hope that we can actually build a stable pool of freelance. So that's where, it's not just once, right? It is long-term engagement, but it's just that they don't know when is the next one, right? So they also hope to build this long-term relationship with that person, right? So that they can count on that person whenever they need to, right? And then of course, the lastly is the cost. I mean, as usual, because it's a business, bottom line matters, right? So it's really the cost effectiveness, right? So if let's say there is a good freelancers who work very well with the team, right, and it's cost effective, so why not, right? The client will want it to be a long-term engagement as well. I'm sure if you have anything to add.
Yeah, but I find what Satya says is very true about labeling themselves as freelancers. But for the past 2 years, the Singapore government is starting to, shed the limelight on freelancers. It's only recently that they started to use the term. But what you say is very correct. But I think, like, when freelancers know themselves as freelancers, they think of themselves as just a warm body, an operational tool. That's why a lot of them come to us asking us how do they carve out their niche.
Yeah.
That's a very common question, but because they see themselves as a freelancer and not an expert, I think if we were to turn things around and if our first question to them is, what are you an expert in? And then it forces them to look into what they can develop their expertise in, and then maybe the whole gameplay can be leveled out in Singapore.
I love that.
That's a very good thought.
And also I think it's good to think in network so that they can pass opportunity. That's what you are here, to pass opportunities around. And I like to come back on something that was said about the timing. I noticed, so maybe that's a tip, and for like freelancer or however we want to call them.
Sure.
For me, it's being present in the mind of people, because sometimes I just do small touch point on a regular basis. I say, hey, have you been? I would love to hear about you about this. They're like, oh, by the way, we need this. You'll be perfect. So it's just they didn't think about it. It's just they are so busy. I mean, to put myself in their shoes, there are so many things that they need someone. So it's just being present and then becoming more evident for them. And the fact that then you are in network, because for me, that's a strength. Whatever people need, they ask me. Really like what I call a teacher, a facilitator, an innovation lab, whatever, I'm able to pass it to someone else so that I can have small touch point and then make the information flow.
Absolutely.
So the network, like I think it's important. And people do not think sometime in network enough, I feel.
Do you think it's a Singapore thing?
Or is it Southeast Asian?
Or it's an Asian type of value that we don't network enough?
I'm going to let you answer this question because in Europe, Africa and South America, I was an engineer and a consultant.
Right.
So not so much is like as an entrepreneur.
Right.
So...
But do you see the difference between these two regions? I mean, where you came from, Europe, and here in Singapore. So how do you first settle down, right, in a country like Singapore where you first
started with I started with a hackathon because I thought I don't understand anything. I don't know anybody, and I need to get it a bit more and go deep into like social issues, like smart city issues or whatever.
Do you have a culture shock when you first moved? How long were you in Singapore, by the way?
5 years.
5 years? Oh, that was when you joined.
I think I joined day number 3. I arrived in Singapore. There was a hackathon. I said, okay, I'm gonna stay here and start having coffee.
Left.
And I never left. I mean, people like, of course I never left.
So what's the culture shock that you find it most difficult to overcome when you first come here from where you are?
I don't know if this is related to freelancing. I'm just saying the culture shock. I am half French, half Spanish. I'm a very direct person. If there is an issue or if there is something I need, I'm gonna ask you, like, tell me, happy, tell me, and then I've got the information that I can move on.
Yeah.
I learned really, like, my last position, I ended up like once a month having an individual coffee with people working with me. I say, okay, how are we doing? Is there anything? And people are like, yes, actually, I'd like to share that. So for me, Asia is amazingly fast on many things, but sharing feedback, I have always to go and take it. If I feel sometimes it makes me lose a bit of time. Just you're not happy to just tell me, and then I adapt, and then I've got the information. So that's a really big difference. However, it has taught me to be a bit more like smooth, which is good, right?
Yeah, it is.
Because I think the other side is I'm very energetic. So some people love me. They also hire me to facilitate complicated topic, complicated situation because I'm a bit like, hey, I'm here. So it's can I give an example of one of my last community projects? There is a festival, the first ever about sexual wellness and reproduction. And they needed someone to actually engage and activate the community around this very delicate topic. So they say, okay, do you have idea? Tons of idea. So we ended up doing something, and now I'm doing like interview and making people draw with a very smooth way of bringing this. Like in 101, it's going to be, but then we're going to have an entire exhibition about like sexual wellness and reproduction, which is not really easy to talk to, not really Asian style to talk
Especially
to.
in Singapore.
Yeah, for sure.
Yes, and again, I'm not very sure it's just Singapore. I think there's also, what would you say, like, other part of like Asia?
Yeah, you're not going to have luck with that in India.
So
It's going to be weird.
So the culture shock that was like, hey, I'm a bit like, I can't play my specialty as I can't play she's a bit the funny Angmo, like she's gonna do some crazy stuff, but it's gonna be all right. And if I manage, that's true, right? Just to come back to the point about the platform and the community and the network, when a freelancer do something, understand what is the next step and be prepared that if they need support with the next step. So if, for example, I go in a university and I have like this experience in one-on-one with a student, and if they have but we would like to provide like some support, whatever, I don't know, there is a whatever topic they want. It's good for me to know a bit what's next to be able to pass the information even if I don't do it. So I think that's important to understand what's next with the client.
Yeah, that's true.
Absolutely.
That's true. It's the next step. To think about it. That's true.
I'm from Mumbai, so I grew up there pretty much my whole life. And I moved here when I was 17 for university. And so I graduated, and then I started my own business. And 10 years later, I'm still here.
Never look back, right? So when you first come to Singapore to study at MU, do you have like a culture shock as well, Or actually in general, we are quite similar in that sense.
No, the culture shock was huge. Because it was very interesting because obviously I was very young and I was, this was the first time I was living in another country, like without my family or anything. So that in itself is like an intense experience. But on top of that, I'm a vegetarian. So, and back in 2008, you'll be surprised to know that there were not that many vegetarian food places in Singapore. So like opposite SMU, there is still like a kopitiam. And because I've been vegetarian all my life, and obviously in India, there's a huge meat eating community, but like the meat is usually like in the curry, so you don't really see it. And then I walk into like a kopitiam and there's like a roasted duck hanging there. And I was like, I'm going to get a heart attack just looking at this.
Imagine the French person. I took a picture and sent to my family of them. So it was quite intense. Like I think that was like quite an intense experience for me. And I think so getting used to the food culture was quite interesting. Also, I think Singapore has a very unique like cultural context as well, right? Like that I wasn't really exposed to. Like I was in Singapore, I think a week before
classes started, like before university started, right? So it was just really getting used to a whole new community of people. And also, like, a lot of the people I went to university with, they had context, right? Because they had friends from high school who were still with them. They knew a lot of people, like through like common social circles. But I didn't know anybody, basically. So I didn't know anybody. So I was building my social networks from scratch and really getting used to the place. Honestly, I think it took me about 2 years to really start loving Singapore, just because the first 2 years I was like, there's just so much to get used to. And obviously the curriculum was really intense and all of that. But I loved it. I think definitely coming to Singapore has been one of the best decisions of my life, even though I didn't know it would be when I moved, of course.
I'm just curious, why would you...
So diverse here. The quality of people I'm meeting is like, I've never been saying so much like, hey, I'm half Spanish, half French, because when people ask you like, hey, where you come from, it's like, you or my family, or there's so many things to be said, and like, so it means understanding clients' needs some time. It's really a lot of background and context, as you mentioned.
For sure.
It's so exciting intellectually.
Yeah. So what advice will you give to a say somebody who is interested to get into freelancing? How do you advise them to go and look for their first client? Like, we kind of mentioned that understanding clients is important and things like that, and that requires a lot of skill sets, right? Communication skill sets, understanding, of the context,
Client management.
So for young freelancers, what are some of your recommendations as to how do they go out, and get their clients?
I have one that is very important. Just go out and talk to potential clients. Not only your friends, not only the people you trust, just go out and talk to people. I'm not joking. I was like mentoring like 12 hours on Saturday for a hackathon. Amazing. But it took them maybe half of the time to understand they needed to, during the hackathon, grab the phone and talk to people to understand what you're proposing is that. And every time you meet a client, what I'm trying to do, and that's a lot of people will advise the same, like ask this client or potential client, hey, can you recommend me someone else to meet with, just to have a coffee and get some feedback and understand.
That's a good suggestion. We have never done that before.
So that's a tips that you never leave. And if the person is busy, or you can understand, or have something, or say, I will follow up later. And they don't, you do follow up until they give you a contact. Making it easy for them is, hey, I've noticed you didn't have the time to come back to me. I prepare a small blurb so that you can introduce me easier to this type. Make it easy for anyone who'd accept to take a coffee with you too. But
That's what you
great
should be
tip.
doing.
That's what I should be doing.
be a, how do you say it in hustler? Hustle them and say that they get, because you can assure them you're not going to do a sales pitch because you're not even ready, you don't know if you have a niche, etc. But really talk to. I would love to do that even more. Like I had like 2 meetings this morning, but it's really so it's a bit create instability because you get so much insight.
But would you say as a freelancer you have to do everything, right? So for example, you mentioned, you want to meet more people, but do you have the time, right? So once you get a project, then what happened to this, right?
If I had the perfect answer to that, I'd be Anne-Laure millionaire, like millionaire.
But that's really good advice. That is really good advice. Like just asking people who else you can connect with is definitely amazing advice. The only thing that I would add to that, like if you're really new, so there are 2 things to think about. The first thing is that go out and be useful. And I think people just don't do this enough. Like there are so many people who are just sitting on their couch and going, how do I get a new client? But the fact is there are so many people out there who have a problem they want solved, right? So if you can just be that person who can solve that problem for them, they'll happily pay you to solve it, right? So that's, I think, a really important thing, which is go out and be useful. And there are ways to be useful in all kinds of contexts. Like you can be useful in a local community, like a co-working space. You can be useful in an online community, like a Facebook group. There are just so many options for you to be useful. And once that happens, I've actually hired people who just reached out and commented on my post and said, hey, here are 5 things for you to think about the specific problem I want to solve. And then we got on the phone and I was like, I love your energy. I love what you do. Let's work together. And I've hired them for really like healthy amounts of money. And that's it, right? Like it's just really starts from being useful. So I would say definitely go out there and be useful. And the second thing is understand that you have an inherent value just because you have time, passion, and interest in a certain topic. And I say this because, okay, for example, I'm going to make a very unpopular admission. I hate social media. Like, I'm a writer. I can write words for a living, no problem. But if you want me to figure out what to say on social media on a regular basis, like I like sharing my thoughts, no problem. I can just share a ramble, not an issue. But if you want me to really like follow a schedule and like do social media like a professional, like there are very few things I hate in the world more than that. So I recently hired a
to
girl.
everyone.
Yeah, like if anybody comes to me asking for social media, I'm going to be very angry. But so, for example, I hired someone pretty much just because she loves it. Like she's like, I love social media. I can do this all day long. So the fact that she has the time, the willingness, and the passion to do social media means that she's already valuable to somebody like me, right? She's already worth paying and she's already worth hiring. So that's something I want people to remember, because a lot of the times people go out there and they're stuck in their own head. They're like, oh my God, like, what do I do? What do I love? What do I don't love? Do I want to do this in 5 years? La, la, la. The fact is that your work is not about you. Your work is actually about your clients. Your work is actually about the problems that you're solving that need to be solved. So if you just think of it from that perspective of like just being useful and solving these important problems, making money or getting your first client or your 10th client or your 100th client is not really going to be a problem. Yeah.
That's very good advice.
Yeah.
To maybe complete that is very, I think I really like what she said, like what Satya said is at the beginning, maybe do a bit more and like say yes, plan in your head, okay, I've got 3 to 6 months money on the bank account that I can do some testing.
Yep.
And that's very important that people understand. I give myself 6 months and this is the money and plan like everything they need to plan. Then say yes. After that, there is a where I feel is challenging moment where you have to start to say no to something.
Yes, it's important.
I can teach you how to do
I
that.
don't want to do something. No, actually, I learned with consulting with big companies. So I've been working with very big industrial clients. And as a junior, I was like, yes. And at some point, I said, no, I totally disagree. However, we could do that. The level of respect I got that day, I was like, oh my God, people like to be said no with a solution. Huh?
With a solution.
Yeah. So I personally, in my business right now, I feel like this transition is a bit epic for me because I like to do many things, but I think I need to like really focus on what works best. But yeah, it's important to plan exploration phase and then understand what you're not passionate about. That
Absolutely.
gonna be.
Yeah, so I think this brought me. Oh, you have.
Yeah,
questions?
how about freelancers who wants to find a niche for themselves? How do they go about, doing it? Freelancers in Singapore, when they first started out, they will say yes to a lot of things, and then they will do a lot of things from corporate, for example, corporate videos to print, everything. So how do they, in their journey, find a niche for themselves?
Okay.
How do they start?
Yeah, I have the perfect answer for you because I have this conversation literally on a weekly basis with my clients, which is the way, and I kind of had a similar journey to what you were describing as well. Like you go through a phase of exploring and it doesn't have to be a really long phase. Like it can be as long or short as you need it to be. Because I know people who have been in the business for as long as me, but who have never just found a niche. But the fact is that at a certain point, you will start seeing patterns in your business. Like, I think that's the most important. Like, if you just take out some time to reflect on how your business is performing and how things are turning out, you start seeing patterns in your business. And I actually just have 3 criteria for how to pick a niche. It's very straightforward. The first being the work, it should be work that you really enjoy doing. Because, as a freelancer or as a business owner, or however you choose to see it, the whole reason why we are here is because we want to do this our way, right? Like we want to do business our way, we want to do life our way. So if you're doing something you don't enjoy, it kind of defeats the entire point of it. And it's also very draining energetically, and you don't want that. So it should be enjoyable to you, valuable to your clients, and profitable for you to offer. So there are only these 3 things that you really need to think about to pick like a really rock solid niche that'll bring you a lot of that'll make your business actually successful and also give you a lot of personal passion and energy for the work that you're doing. So if it's enjoyable for you, it's valuable to your clients, and it's profitable for you to offer, bingo, you have the jackpot. And honestly, the profitability can be fixed very easily. Like if it's enjoyable and valuable, finding the profitable angle is usually the easiest step. But if it's not enjoyable or valuable, then you have a lot more work to do. Yeah.
About profitability, and I think that's a conversation I had with Illustrator, for example. I feel maybe in Singapore, some Illustrator are amazing technically.
Yeah.
Amazing. I'm like, wow, blown away. But in school, they do not learn about how do you budget your time and like material, and then the cost of like the time you spend like building the proposal, and if you need. This is so it can easily be fixed.
Yeah.
But it's important to think about it before and ask advice to people who are more experienced. Find like tutorial online or whatever. But
I think it's not only the illustrators, actually a lot of the
freelance designers.
Creative profession generally, and also they see themselves not so good with money, not so good with figures, right? So a lot of time they don't think about it.
Yeah. But I mean, I think it's really like astonishing. Like what you just said is so true. It's astonishing how true it is, because I was speaking to someone who's a business owner and who has like in 2017 made more than 200,000 US dollars, which is like a very healthy amount of money. And I was having a chat with her and I learned that she doesn't know how to calculate profits in her business, and she was doing it completely wrong. Right. And she told me, we have 60% profit. I was like, that's not possible.
I want to work with you.
I was like, that's not possible.
How do you manage to get
Pretty much. I was like, that's not possible.
An accountant.
I just asked her 2 more questions and I was like, okay, there it is. Yeah. And okay, can you imagine having 60% profits when you're paying 33% taxes in India? Like, hell no, you can't. That makes no sense. That means you have 7% business expenses. That makes no sense. Yeah. And I was like, okay, do you have you accounted for salary? Yeah. She's like, no, we don't pay ourselves salary. I was like, that's the problem. Yeah, that's the problem. I was like, if you paid yourself a salary out of that number and you really accounted for it the way a professional accountant would do it, your profit percentage would be between less than 20% probably, because you can't, you need to pay yourself. And she's like, it's me, my husband, and a full-time editor. I'm like, sweetheart, you got to be paying salaries to these 3 people. Like, I was like, are these people slaves? Like, I don't understand.
Not only salary, right? We're talking about normal expenses as well, right? I don't know whether they have office space. Maybe they don't have office space. But what about the time that you travel to meet your client, transportation? All these are actually business costs.
Software, membership, all these things.
Exactly.
And it's not very complete. You don't need to be good with numbers. Yeah. You just need to be like good enough to like just consider that.
Yeah.
And that's what I was mentioning when you're planning for maybe it's 1 month exploratory phase, maybe 6 months, whatever. Just think about like the end result, everything you need for that. And
Actually, that is also one of the issue for freelancers is really how do they then calculate their
daily
hours,
rates.
Their daily rates or even their hourly charge. How do they charge their client, right? So a lot of them also just charge $15, right? But they never thought about, okay, you are freelancers, right? You don't have fringe benefits, you don't have additional health benefits, so all this you need to put it in, right? So that kinds of is something that we would like our freelancers to think about as well.
100%. Yeah.
And at some point in time, but of course, that is something like at which point is that you need to actually consider whether is there a need for you to increase your fee.
Yeah, of course.
You can't be charging like $50 a day for like 5 years in a row.
For sure. And I think it's, okay, so one of the biggest mistakes I think people do around pricing, and I love this conversation. I can talk about pricing and money all day long. Like, this is seriously my favorite.
That's why you're so successful, right? Because that's the top most important thing.
I'm not shy when I talk about money. Like, I'm not shy at all. But the thing is with pricing, especially, it's a really important thing to think about from a reverse engineered perspective. And the reason I'm saying this is because a lot of people think, I should price myself based on my market, right? Or I should price myself based on these, there are these freelance income calculators online, which pretty much will always give you a number between $50 and $75 an hour. I'm telling you, no matter how you slice it, that's the number they'll come up with. But honestly, I think that's a really low number. But okay, so the fact is that it's important to reverse engineer how much you should be charging, because think about it from the perspective of how much money do I want to charge every month, or I want to earn every month. And then break that down into how much time do I have available and to work on client projects, and then come up with a project fee. I would not recommend anybody do an hourly rate. Okay, when you're just starting out, it's fine to do an hourly rate, but I would say transition out of hourly rates as soon as possible, because it's all about that mindset again, because your client, if they think of you as somebody who's just getting a job done for a certain number of dollars an hour. The problem is that you'll end up getting two questions that you just don't want to answer. The first question being, so how much work can you really do in 1 hour? Which is a ridiculous question, I think, from a client's perspective. I mean, it comes up a lot, but it's a ridiculous question. And the second thing will be, wow, like your number is so high. Like why are you worth that much, right? So both of those questions are completely counterproductive to growing a profitable business. So I stopped charging hourly rates like years back, and I only do project fees now. But that's one of the biggest metrics that I use to come up with the number, which is how much time do I actually have available, and what are my revenue goals, and then you reverse engineer your project fee. And honestly, like people think, oh, you can do this only when you've been in business for 5 years, but I think it can happen a lot faster. It just depends on how much you value yourself and your expertise and how much you're investing in yourself. So yeah, I think that's my top tip around pricing. Yeah,
And I'd say it's gonna secure the freelancer doing that.
for sure.
And this type of mindset I really like, and I would like to. Another tip for freelancer is you can apply it with your project, with your client. Like tell them, these are the 5 phases. It's gonna and this is how it's gonna go, and really sharing from the end.
Yeah.
And that's securing for them. That's securing for you. You understand all the phase and the cost involved. That's really important. What I do, and I do more consulting project as well. I still have a price per day, just so that what happened is, for example, one client we had I've got a 7-step methodology for this community our experience. But it happens one of my clients, the population, they complain, say, no, we want also to do that. So I had to come up with an additional workshop that you can price, knowing how much you cost per day or you are worth per day, and say, it's it's a half a day workshop, half a day of preparation, half a day of wrapping up. This is it goes fast, and it's less troublesome than per hour.
Yeah.
It's also good to have both ideas in mind so that you can articulate both approach, even if I work on a project basis.
For sure. Yeah.
I mean, that's very good advice. But in our dealing with our clients, one of the most commonly said phrase is, my budget is low. I have no budget. How do you deal with clients that say that?
Yeah.
What's your budget? Then you need to understand what is your minimum budget.
Right.
And I had one client for an event they wanted. I was working with another local artist, art installation. We had a lot of very good feedback. They went and they, fantastic, we want you to do it for us. Yes, sure. Okay, we talked. Now, what's your vision, etc.? What's your budget? I think we can put $500. I was like, wow. This is not even for the material. This is not even covered this. Then it's good to say, hey, so this is not enough. Maybe I can put you in contact with people, etc. But it's important for, once you calculated, reverse engineer everything you will spend and how much profit you want. It's good to know what is your own budget. And something I learned from her, I think I'm going to implement that. I'm asking my client to pay 50% upfront because what I'm doing is important. That I've got I'm a small business. I'm a business about small business, so cash flow as always. And when I work with very large companies that have very complex financial processes, they pay me 3 to 6 months after, and I still do work. So for me, it's important to say now 50%. And something that you advised me to do last time we talked is you pay everything up front. I'm passionate. People know me for that. I'm going to do the work as best as I can anyway. But for me, it's a way to I can spend on the material, I can spend on my time to prepare everything. So I don't know if people are comfortable with the 100% upfront, which for me makes total sense because you hire someone you want to work with and you think is going to complete, not if you have the stick at the end.
Of course, yeah.
At least 50% upfront. That's a tip I learned from you. Thank you. And I do it. It works.
Also because we are so passionate about our work and we know that people need it. But it's not about being unreasonable at all. I always charge 100% upfront. Nobody ever pays me anything less than 100% upfront.
You're a kick ass.
Thank you. But
That's amazing. Yeah, I wish to implement that.
It's possible because she really trusts herself.
Because, that's it. What you said about the trust, that's it. And I just say, no, if you think that I will only finish a job if there was a certain amount of money at the end that you didn't pay me, Like, clearly you don't trust me at all, and there's no point, right? Like, there's no point in us working together. It's like, I have the case studies to prove that I'm great. I know that not a single client has ever been disappointed with my work. I know all of the things that I need to know to be able to deliver whatever it is that you want. So why would you not pay 100% upfront? So it kind of feels like a cop-out to me, to be honest. Like, it's like, oh yeah, like if it doesn't go well, then we want to cut our losses or whatever. And I'm just like, no, either you're in or you're out. Like, you can just pick one. Right. But when I get that question about budget, usually it's just that I really believe in letting people know what their investment is going to be with me upfront. And if they just if they still approach me, there's a very good chance that they know and they're okay with that amount of money. But obviously, if in a conversation, if that comes up, it's like, absolutely, they cannot afford me, then I have a big community of people who charge less than I do, and I'm happy to forward them along to them. Right. But yeah, I don't ever discount my rates just because I don't think that's fair to them or to me. Like, it's just going to cause more resentment, and that's not worth it. Yeah.
And for a freelancer, it can cost a lot of money. I mean, I was lucky because I've got eventually went very well for me, very friend with the client, presenter apologized, like I really understand them, etc. And it was lots of money, but okay, and a great learning. But I think it's not always the case. Some people can work, get very stressed, and then lose a lot.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. But I suppose a lot of those clients are not Singapore company in that sense, because I think when we deal with a lot of Singapore companies, right, they always have this anxiety about paying upfront, right? As in, what's more 100% upfront. So yeah, I think 50-50 makes sense, because I think it's like halfway. So it's like halfway there. So I pay you like a deposit, right? And then after that, when I got it, then I get it. I think that is quite commonly practiced, right? But it's just the 100% is, I think we are so far away from this. It's a lot of your clients or Singapore clients.
innovation.
Yeah, exactly. Something that we must learn from. Thank you so much, ladies. Thank you.
Thank you for having us. Yeah,
Thank you
really
for all
fun.
the advice.
It was great. This was so much fun.
Thank you.
Thank you for tuning in. Another episode for the Freelance Exchange. So subscribe to iTunes and leave a review.
So subscribe to our YouTube page and leave a comment, because we want to hear what you think. Let us know the questions or the freelancer you want to hear from, and follow us at CreativeesAtWork on Facebook page and Instagram.
So join us next time for a brand new episode of Freelance Exchange. Until now, see you. Bye.